If you sat for the prelims on May 24th, 2026, opened the booklet and felt completely betrayed and shocked because you memorized every dynasty lineage from the Cholas to the Mughals, but still could not solve the history section. Why? Listen carefully. You are failing for an outdated coaching model. UPSC did not change the facts this year. They completely shifted the curriculum. They walked away from static timeline tracking to test systematic. Test systematic, technological, and interdisciplinary evolution. They walked away from static timeline tracking. Earlier, they asked. Currently, they asked to test systemic, technological, and interdisciplinary evolution. They connected economic hydrology to Vedic verses, mapped mathematical epigraphy across maritime trade routes, and weaponized architectural scale to break superficial options. They connected economic hydrology to Vedic verses, mapped mathematical epigraphy across maritime trade routes, and weaponized architectural scale to break superficial options. Today, we are deploying the logic of exactitude. We are deconstructing how systems think. We are deconstructing how systems thinking unlocks this paper, even if you forgot the dry facts. Let's look at the autopsy of the 2026 prelims GS paper 1 history section. First and foremost, we have to focus socio-economic evolution. What is socio-economic evolution in history? For that, let's look at question number 3 from set A paper 2026 prelims GS paper 1. Legacy materials tell you to treat ancient literature as a dry list of book names. But UPSC wants you to look at the economic balance sheet of a civilization. Legacy materials means earlier and materials, the books. Legacy materials tell you to treat ancient literature as a dry list of book names. But UPSC wants you to look at the economic balance sheet of a civilization. From question number 3, statement number 1 highlights precise kind terminology. Kahapana, Nikha, inside early Buddhist Pali canonical texts. Comes to the statement number 2. Statement number 2 brings in the archaeological layer. The physical excavation of silver punch marked coins across northern India. When you merge these, they are not isolated facts anymore. They are twin indicators of the second urbanization. You cannot have a monetized economy without standardized denominations and trade networks. So both are symbiotic. So statements 1 and 2 are correct. So the option is C. This is all about question number 3. That is the question family number 1. This is numismatic realism. It comes under question family number 1, that is numismatic realism, regarding about Pali, canons and the second urbanization. This is all about question number 3 set A paper. This is the question family number 1. So please look at the question number 7. Turn to question number 7. It comes under question family number 2, that is regarding statement 1, the Mankani plates of Gujarat represents the earliest definitive epigraphic usage of the positional decimal place value system in India. What is the statement 1 says? The Mankani plates of Gujarat represents the earliest definitive epigraphic usage of the positional decimal place value system in India. It is talking about mathematical epigraphy. And what statement 2 is saying that by the 9th century this was standardized. But statement 3 is the key here. It traces place values in Sanskrit inscription in Southeast Asia as early as the 7th century. These are the 3 statements regarding the question number 7. It is all talking about mathematical epigraphy and the global decimal migration from here to there, from there to others. So you have to understand here, to to a superficial learner which is aspirant, this looks like a random guess, but to a systems thinker, it maps the maritime trade routes of Indian mathematics. So merchant fleets carried our numerical systems alongside our philosophy. So these all 3 are flawless. So option is D regarding the question number 7. So to superficial learner, this looks like a random guess, but to a systems thinker, what he think? It maps the maritime trade routes of Indian mathematics. Merchant fleets carried our numerical systems alongside our philosophy. So the movement happened that way. So you have to understand the philosophy. Then only you can solve the question easily. Even the history also. Then comes to the question family number 3, that is the hydrology of the Rigveda. So under this, look at the question number 10. What is the question number 10? UPSC bypassed standard summarizes to test the mechanics of ancient agrarian engineering. So history is not a simple history. In the history also, agrarian engineering also there. So the Rigveda explicitly details the Ashma Chakra, a stone, a stone wheel, and the Ahava are straped buckets for water lifting. So combined with implements like the Parashu and Datra and the use of draft oxen, you have a complete technological system that enabled advanced plains farming. So in these, all the statements are structurally correct. So the option is P. So it is talk about hydrology of Rigveda. In this, it talk about lifting the water from well. It's talk about agrarian engineering mechanics. It talks about Ashma Chakra. it talks about Ahava, it talks about plains farming expansion, it talks about oxen power irrigation. So you have complete technological systems that enabled advanced plains farming. So from pulley system to irrigation, irrigation to expansion, expansion to growth. So comes to the next part, that is structural art and iconographic traps. In 2026, they given like this: ancient to art and culture, from agrarian engineering to art and iconographics. So now architectural taxonomy. So for this, look at the question number 4. You cannot pass this by knowing where a temple stands. You must understand its geometry. The temple at Aihole experimented with a northern curvilinear Nagara tower. Kuchmalligudi temple. The Dashavatara temple at Deogar or Deogar is the foundational model of Gupta era Nagara architecture. So in this question, we are talking about temple architecture, whether it comes to the Nagara or whether it comes to the Shikara or whether it comes to Nagara versus Dravida. So however, the Malagitti Shivalaya and the Virupaksha temple are textbook Dravida style, characterized by horizontal tiles. So classification unlocks the answer. So statement 2 and statement 3. So option is B. So this is all about the taxonomy, architectural taxonomy, and this is about Nagara architecture, Dravida architecture. This is all about architectural traps. So look at the clever structural trap in question number 14. Please look at the question number 14. In that question, statement number 1 places Amaravati in the lower Krishna Valley. It is correct, statement number 1. But look at statement number 2. It claims Amaravati was next only to the Sanchi Stupa in size. That is a factually reversed trap. At its peak under the Shatavahana, the great Amaravati Stupa, the Mahachaitya was actually significantly larger than Sanchi. So UPSC deliberately twisted the scale parameter to catch those who read superficial level summaries. So statement 2 is wrong. So the option is B. So you have to be very careful with the options, with the traps. So that is why you have to be very careful, and that is why you have to give maximum number of revisions, and you have to read the question and the option statements is very careful with presence of mind. Finally comes to the question number 12. What is the question number 12? In early Aniconic Buddhist art, the Buddha was never depicted in human form. A wheel symbolized the first sermon. A stupa mapped the Mahaparinibbana. But a vacant throne or an empty seat beneath the Bodhi tree. That was the specific symbolic container for the enlightenment and meditation of Buddha. This is the question and options statements. So Aniconic iconography, the empty seed symbol here, telling about the golden spiritual glow under the Bodhi tree. It regarding and talking about empty seed. So what is the symbol map here? Wheel to first ceremony and stupa to Mahaparinibbana, and empty seat is a representation of representing meditation. So socio-economic impact to architectural dissemination, victory geometry, relief art scale analysis. It is all talking about with this iconography. So the sermons symbols, the sermons symbols matching those specific symbolic container for the enlightenment and meditation of Buddha, that is empty seat. So option A is the correct answer. Comes to the question number 1, that is Carnatic versus Hindustani music equivalence. Comes to the raga. And let us talk about the questions which were seen in the examination. Let me repeat it again. Question number 1, Carnatic versus Hindustani music. Question number 3 is Pali canonical literature and money economy. And question number 4, Nagara style architectural taxonomy. Question number 5, Jain cosmological classifications. Look at the nature of the questions. One is art and architecture regarding to music, one is literature, and one is money economy, and other one is art and architecture, especially temple architecture, and other one is Jain cosmological classifications. Another one is mural depictions in Bach caves. This is comes to paintings and art and architecture also. Another. And next one, question number 7 is epigraphic numerical history. Harappan town artifact interpretation. Next one. Next one is radical agrarian movements. Question number 9. So you look at the question, they covered all the topics important comes under art and architecture. The variation is you have to observe. Then art and architecture after radical agrarian movements comes to the modern India. And question number 10, Rigvedic hydrology and farm technology. They go into the deeper technology rather than literature names, etc. And comes to the question number 12, early Buddhist Aniconic iconography. And question number 13, Vedic river identifications. This is comes under geography. Question number 14, Amaravati Stupa architectural dissemination comes under sculptures. And question number 15, Tamilakam dynasty lineages comes under Sangam age. So question number 19, Gwalior versus Jaipur classical Gharanas. Again comes to the music. And question number 20, Rigvedic agricultural terminology comes under agriculture. Question number 37, burial architectures. Thai home moidams. This is Thai home moidams. Especially we discussed in the our YouTube class, YouTube video. So we never say that every year UPSC asked like this type of questions. This section, this history section have this much number of questions they will ask. No. So but we have to ready for anything. So comes to the analysis part, the trend from shifting in 2026 history and culture. We have to discuss this. If you are stepping up from shifting of the 2026 history and culture paper, what changes we observed here? 2 to 3 changes we observed very significantly. And that first one is the era of social and scientific evolution over static factual timelines. Static factual timelines gone. The beginning of the era of social and scientific evolution. In this, UPSC has completely walked away from superficial dynastic English or dry chronology matching. The 2026 paper proves that history is being tested as a story of technological, social, and economic change. Let me repeat it again. Look at question number 7, place value epigraphy, and question number 10, Rigvedic well technology. The examiner wants to see if you understand how agriculture technology developed or how mathematical discoveries traveled along trade networks through maritime trade. So you have to observe, observe the things, observe the pattern, observe the shift, the way framing the questions of UPSC. This is the first shift. This is the first observation. And we are moving to second observation, that is radical structural demands in art and architecture. You can no longer pass by just knowing where a temple is located. Not, that's not happen. That won't happening, because you must master structural parameters like Nagara, like Shikara or Vesara. What are the different changes? Vimana, etc. etc. So for this, look at question number 4, Nagara Shikara styles. And question number 14, Amaravati Stupa dimensions they asked. So the minute way they asked with the trap. So UPSC introduced clever internal filters, like climbing a stupa was smaller than Sanchi when it was actually larger. Why? To catch out candidates who rely on superficial summaries, confusing with their traps by UPSC. It demands not superficial learners. It demands absolute visualization of architectural layout rather than superficial summaries, compilations, reading, learning. And comes to the another change we observing, that is deep textual and iconographic literacy. They asked normal literature questions in previous years, but the paper introduced a strict filter on early philosophical and canonical terminology. They goes into very deeper structural and internal philosophical. Look at the question number 3. You had to match literal numismatic words from early Pali Buddhist canons to physical archaeological excavations. Look at the link between that text to archaeology excavations. In the question number 5, you had to know the 4 core karma realms, Gati, of Jain cosmology to spot the trap option. So look at the how deeper UPSC is going into the structure of the topic. See the depth. Look at the question number 12. You had to understand early aniconic symbolism, aniconic iconography, where an empty seat meant meditation, not a simple sermon. The symbolic traps, the symbolization. So, history is no longer a test of your memory. It is a test of your historical literacy. UPSC wants candidates who can think like an economic historian or an archaeologist evaluating a dig. From this observation, history is no longer a test of your memory. It is a test of your historical literacy. So UPSC wants candidates who can think like an economic historian or an archaeologist evaluating a dig. To conquer 2027, students must break down the walls between subjects and look at how technology, art, and economic systems evolve together across time. And what is the ultimate message written across this 2026 history paper is death of the passenger mindset, no static timelines, no thick factual compendiums or loose summaries. If you believe those, you are walking into a trap. UPSC no longer wants you to memorize history as an antiquarian collector. They want you to ask how did agricultural technology alter settlements? They want you to ask how did mathematical systems migrate along trade networks? What structural scale was required to build the monuments? So history is no longer chronology. It is a system. It is a system's evolution across the time. That is the pattern first system literacy we build at Metis every single day. If this breakdown changed the way you look at this examination, hit that subscribe button. Join our community of over 27,000 serious minds. Up next, we take this lens into the single most feared psychological bottleneck of the entire cycle, that is the CSAT risk decoupling masterclass. I will see you there.